Hi, all. Greetings. Thanks for being here today. Okay, so we're venturing on to the next goddesses, and I thought it might be fun to just kind of take you on the same path that I go on when I do this, in case you want to do your own looking up. And we're going to talk about some other stuff, okay? So, one thing I want to clarify is in my last video, I talked about how somewhere in one of the stories, the Seneca believed something, and I was correct in the video, but I was incorrect in who I was supposed to be referring to. So yes, I had done a video about the Seneca, but then I went into the book Secrets, the encyclopedia, the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. Okay. And I was reading about the names of mother. So one of the names was, Matur Diva? Mantra Diva? Let me double check that. Yes, I was reading, the name was Matrika Divas, and I had mentioned what it meant, Holy Mothers, and then at the end of that, it says see Motherhood, so maybe we'll do that today. But one of the things it says, the Pitris, or the fathers, were produced of an entirely different creation, saying, according to Tantric tradition, the Matrika Divas were the true parents of humanity, which were the Holy Mothers, or the Mother Goddesses. And now learning some of the language of the Arawak, Zimas, or spirits, or great elements, or primordial creators, like beyond gods and goddesses. Those are colonial words. However, in their story, according to the Tantric tradition, males or fathers were products of an entirely different creation. And then it says see Motherhood. All right, let's do it. Before I get into the gods and goddesses, let's do it. Motherhood. Here goes. Motherhood, out of the book by Barbara Walker, The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, okay? Okay, motherhood. During the early evolution of the human race, motherhood was the only recognized bond of relationship. Like any mammalian family, the primitive human family considered the mother and offspring. In small quotes. The animal family is the product of the maternal instincts and of those alone. The mother is the sole center and bond of it. The male has no share in forming the animal family. He is not an essential member of it. He may join the maternal group, but commonly does not do so. When he attaches himself to the animal family, his association with it is loose and precarious. Where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Where the female can, I'm going to read that again. Where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Where male cooperation is useful, the male seeks out or follows the female, and it is the latter who determines the segregation of the group and selects its abode, home. So this is in nature. Okay, so this is a long read, but this is kind of what I do when I do research. Okay, I feel like a little bit is my mind, the way I look at things. And how if I read one thing, I want to start figuring something else out. So I'm going to pause on your end. I'm going to do some reading here and see where it might link to the last statement I just gave about males or fathers being a completely different creation. Yeah, okay. I'm going to make a note to myself. Just some notes. This is one of the notes as far as in this motherhood part. The bond was maternal because no parental relationships were perceived or even guessed by such early groups with their shifting temporary sexual or smexual attachments. The connection between smexuality and childbearing was unknown to primitive men. People in primitive circumstances still show ignorance of the connection between smexuality and childbearing. Trobindand Islanders. Trobindand. I gotta look that up. Trobindand. This is what I do, just so you know. That is, so the Trobriand Islands are located in the Solomon Sea off the southeastern tip of Papua New Guinea. So I'm going to zoom in on a map. Basically, the far Pacific, close to Australia. Okay, so according to those islanders, attributed pregnancy to spirits, not schmecks. And a woman's husband might help care for her children, but he thought of them as the children of my wife. Okay, so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to read ahead and see the part that links to maybe males and fathers were of a completely different creation. Okay, I love this part because I've been saying this. The secret of fatherhood can only have been revealed to men by the women themselves, because women were the keepers of the calendrical records. What? Calendrical records. Okay, well, that makes sense, right? Like, kept track of who was born and stuff. I mean, we've been saying this. Anyhow, I have to look that word up. We're the keepers of the calendrical. Okay, I apologize. See that? Keepers of the calendrical records. Another traditionally female skill that most men thought beyond their comprehension. I like this also because there has been a lot of, I've had this argument with people in my own life, specifically males, talking about how many things they invented. No. Everything. So many things, especially in the technological world, were invented by women, and brown women at that. Dark melanated brown women. Okay? Indigenous women. All right. So, beyond the advent of monogamous marriage, the late development in human history, there would have been no reason or inclination to correlate copulation with births. Even if the truth were suspected, there were many negative cases to dispose it. Some women would copulate frequently and never become pregnant. Others could remain barren, quote unquote, when living with one man, but conceive when living with another. And, more recent technology has kind of given some education behind that. Women past menopause or before menarche could take any number of lovers without conceiving, which tended to suggest that menstruation was the critical factor rather than sexual activity. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. Okay. As may be found still in many groups of people, motherhood alone was the foundation of clan loyalties. In Assam, the social unit of tribes was Maharis, motherhoods. The Malay family was the Sa Mandai, motherhood. Among the Garos and Khazians, mothers headed the family group and bequeathed all property to the female line. Men could inherit nothing. Nearly everywhere, kinship bonds also passed only through the female line, as in the ancient systems deliberately reversed by Bibles, begats, which recognized only male ancestors. Seri Indian tribes called themselves Kunkak, womanhood, or motherhood. The earliest religious works of art are figures of the Solidarity, great goddess, the Paleolithic image of mother, before there was any father, either on earth or in heaven. The idea of fatherhood was alien to the religious or social thinking of the earliest civilizations. You hear that? I just want to keep reading, y'all. In small quotations. Home and mother are written over every phase of Neolithic agriculture. It was the woman who wielded the digging stick and the hoe, she who tended the garden crops and accomplished those masterpieces of selection and cross-fertilization which turned raw wild species into the prolific, richly nurturous domestic varieties. It was woman who made the first containers, weaving baskets and coiling the first clay pots. In form, the village, too, is her creation. For whatever else the village might be, it was a collective nest for the care and nurture of the young. Here she lengthened the period of childcare and playful irresponsibility on which so much of man's higher development depends. House and village, eventually the town itself, a woman's writ large. In Egyptian hieroglyphs, house or town may stand as symbols for mother. As to confirm the similarity of the individual and the collective nurturing function, in line with this, the more primitive structures, houses, rooms, tombs, are usually round ones, like the original bowl described in Greek myth, which was modeled on Aphrodite's bosom. Ancient civilizations show ample evidence of the matriarchal matrix in which they grew. Egyptians traced their descent through mothers calling themselves X, born of the lady Y, omitting their father's name. On Egyptian funerary stelae, the mother's name was given, but the father's was omitted. Diodorus said Egyptian queens received more respect than kings. In the Ramesseum, the queen mother was addressed as mighty mistress of the world. Oh, that just gave me chills. Mighty mistress of the world. I love that. Pharaohs ruled by matriarchal succession and styled themselves rulers from the womb. The name of the goddess was always a component part of royal names in the earliest dynasties. A pharaoh's title was originally Per-Ah, Great Gate or Great House, symbol of the cosmic womb. Rulers of the Egyptian Nubian neighbors had even more mother-centered title, Mater. Egyptian males were awed by maternal behavior patterns, wondering why women did what they did to maintain the race. Maxims written about 15 BC said, and that's a whole nother story. Okay. The era. Anyways, said, "Thou shalt never forget thy mother and what she has done for thee. For she carried thee long before her heart as a heavy burden, and after thy months were accomplished, she bore thee. 3 long years she carried thee upon her shoulder and gave thee her breast, her bosom to thy mouth. As thy size increased, her heart never once allowed her to say, 'Why should I do this?'" Okay. Egyptians' scriptures emphasize the honor due thy mother. Is this where it came from? Who bore thee much suffering. Okay. So, an Ethiopian woman expressed to Frobenius the basic psychological attitude of primitive mothers. How can a man know what a woman's life is? The man spends a night by a woman and goes away. His life and body are always the same. The woman conceives. As a mother, she is another person from the woman without child. She carries the fruit of the night 9 months long in her body. The fruit of the night. The way we used to write and think and do things, it's just so incredible. Okay. Sometimes something grows into her life that never again departs from it. She is a mother. She is and remains a mother even though her child may not make it. Though all her children do someday leave. That's not what it says, but I can't say it because it's YouTube. For at one time she carried the child under her heart, and it does not go out of her heart ever again, not even when it is no longer here. All this the man does not know. He knows nothing. He does not know the difference before love and after love, before motherhood and after motherhood. He can know nothing. Only a woman can know that and speak of that. That is why we won't be told what to do by our husbands. That's Ethiopian. Here's one. An old Iranian, the head of clan or family was the Hana, grandmother. See, it just shows the incredible effort to remove the mother. And why? Okay. Among the Medes, or Medes, genealogies were based on the female line. In Babylonian, the ideogram for mother combined the elements of house and deity. Like the Hindu Grahadevita, or house goddess. The female woman received precedence in all form of address. The descending order of beings began with goddess and gods, women and men. By Babylonian law, any sin against the mother, any repudiation against the mother was punished by banishment from the community. The Lycians, who kept track of female ancestors only. Heresides Ponticus said of them, "From of old they have been ruled by the women." Phoenicians wrote of recent past when people didn't know their fathers but took the names of their mothers. Let's keep going. Etruscan tomb inscriptions also disregard fathers. When married couples were buried together, only the wife's name was written. Late Roman texts reversed this usage, using the name of the husband, omitting that of the wife. But before the founding Rome of Italy was governed by the Sabine matriarch with ate at the end. Okay. When not even kings knew their fathers, Romulus, Ancus, Marcus, and Severus Tullius had only mothers. Indeed, fatherhood was not always noticed. Even in the classical period, Roman plebeians didn't know their fathers. When the myth of Romulus and his men was written down, it was said Romulus made his followers marry Sabine women because as men they lacked sanguinis ac, the blood of the race. This could come only from the female owners of the land. Okay, so this book just affirms everything that's going on today. All the separation, all the isms, all the spells, all the mental influences, all of the hidden things, all of the balances or ideas of polarity of what is male and what is female, what is looked at as nature, astronomy, astrology, geology, all come from the mothers originally. And what had to happen was the slow removal of the mothers from certain clans, or removal altogether from the world. It's already been done. This is why it's this loop repeating, because even those today that are males that recognize the Great Mother, recognize the importance of knowing God is female, God is a woman. The over and understanding, the remembrance really of how this all happened was this. The consistent, repeated removal or insertion into the matriarchal system, or slowly removing each Sabian woman, indigenous woman, Amarukan woman, sea star, mother, attached to the planet, mysterious cosmic magician, dragon, wisdom. Without it, there's no one. And if we knew this, so side note, I keep seeing things about Tartaria and how they tore it down. Well, if we look closely at these old Tartarian buildings, and you can look at my old video from Balboa Park, where you see consistent females and women of stature, women of not only strength and stature, but authoritative stature. And they're everywhere. And so the reason why they had to tear down these old Tartarian buildings, these old Golden Age buildings, is because they showed proof of who created them, where they came from. It was from the Great Mothers who understood vibration and sound and understood the connection of the mind, earth, elements, magnetism. Those star forts, some of those star forts are so old. That's where we learned the mothers, the Great Mothers. We created those with our minds, connecting to all the other mothers wherever they were at, we knew how to do this. It was a regular thing. And so later came things like the pyramids. That's later. Because before we were just, whew. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure which is. I feel like those Tartarian buildings were before things like the pyramids. And that something happened to change not only the mindset, but the atmosphere. And I think they went together because we are the creators of this existence with Great Mother. We help to create things. We help to create the stars in astrology. We help move the stars in astrology. We help move the planet. We help move the waters. The Great Mothers with the planet. It all comes from her. So if you remove all of that, and not only do you remove it, but you instill a completely different story, and you make us forget. And then you give us little bits and pieces of information. It almost worked. And so now is the time, not just now, but for years, many have been remembering. And there have been cycles of remembrance coming in, even with the males. But this just shows the consistency of it and how this is often left out, especially when we're retracting stories from our own cultures and from our own remembrance. And clans, tribes were all matriarchal. They all came from mothers first. So when we go back and we look at surnames, are those surnames female? Are those surnames male? And then you start seeing like the different hierarchy that comes in. And then not only the different hierarchy that comes in, but the way that the females and women are treated within each culture. And it's small amounts of cultures where there are only women still remaining. Okay. Thank you for letting me. Thank you for listening. Okay, and so I stopped there, but also this, same with the Sabine women, this could only come from the female owners of the land, the blood of the race. Okay, so it goes on. It just goes on and on. From Rome, the Queen of Heaven, barbarian tribes of Northern Europe, women were property owners, clan heads, religious leaders, the lands. Roman writers called northern nations lands of women. I'm just going to keep going because it's so much fun. Okay, the Lombards claimed their ancestors descended from a primal virgin mother. Gambra, who had no spouse, primordial mother. Mothers, not fathers, gave their names to children in pagan Britain and Scandinavia. See, this is why I relate the idea of pagan to mothers, because you see, anyhow, pagan was created. Pagan word was created. Pagan, okay. Pagan Britain and Scandinavia. Old German documents designate persons by their mothers' names only. It was the same in the Far East. Chinese family names are always formed from a sign meaning woman. The custom said to date from a past time when people knew their mothers but not their fathers. The Manchu of southern China had a system of heredity, queenship, passing through a sacred female clan. Chinese writings called Tibet the land of women. It's this, what? Oh my gosh. And Japan, the land of queens. Japanese imperial families trace their descent from the supreme sun goddess Omikami. Omikami. Amaterasu. Omikami Amaterasu. Mother of the world. The reason why I did that at the end is because it's similar to Artemis. And it has mater in it. Amaterasu. Amater. Mater Asu. Amaterasu. Okay. Mother of the world. Japanese legendary chiefs of ancestral tribes were usually women. Remember how I was talking about that when I'm reading about our American indigenous stories? Okay. The Chinese said the first man to understand fatherhood and institute monogamous marriage was Fu Hai, who, however, had no father but only a mother. The same first discoverer of paternity in Greek myth was Cercops, a high priest of Athene and one of her serpent consorts. We're going to talk about snakes in a minute. Okay, Athene, however, was a name of an Aegean great goddess and universal mother who ruled alone and supreme during the Bronze Age. Oh my gosh, it just keeps going. It goes on and on and on. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead because goodness sakeys. Oh my gosh. Okay, Frankfurt said the goddess was supreme in Mesopotamia because the source of all life is seen in the female. Okay, we're going to jump ahead. Hindu scriptures say the goddess invented alphabets. Have I said this before? Pictographs, mandalas, and other magical signs. Hence her title, Samnya, sign, name, image. That's all in one name. Sign, name, image. Samnya. Samjna or Samjina. Okay. The Brahmavarta Purana says under another of her titles, Savati, the goddess gave birth to the Vedas, the rhythms of the ragas, day and night, the year, the month, the seasons, the inch, the second, and all other units of measurement, also logic, grammar, the days of the week, time, death, nourishment, memory, victory, religious rituals, the trinity of aeons, and all the gods. As Great Mother Kali Ma, she wore on her necklace the skulls of sacred Sanskrit letters, which she invented and invested with such magic power that she could create things simply by pronouncing the names in this language. The notion led to the Neoplatonic and later Christian concepts of creative word or logos. Sanskrit matra, like Greek meter, meant both mother and measurement. We just talked about this in one of my other videos. Mathematics is by divination, mother wisdom. Root words of motherhood produce many words of calculation. Metric, menstruation, met, mens, mark, mentality, geometry, trigonometry, trigonometry, hydrometry, etc. Hydrometry, right? But the way that we pronounce them. Women did temporal and spatial calculations for so long that according to the Vayu Purana, men once thought women were able to give birth because they had superior skill in measuring and figuring. Women did temporal and... Oh, I just read that. Okay. The Middle East. Also, numbers and letters were inventions of the goddess. Okay. Among Hittites, priestesses known as elderly women taught the art of writing, kept records, advised kings, and practiced medicine. The triple goddess of fate was incarnate with 3 gulas, or writers, corresponding the dramatic fates called the Scribri, very German pronunciation, which I cannot pronounce right now. The writing women, and Roman mother of destiny, Fata Scribuna, the fate who writes. Okay, you guys, this goes on. This goes on and on and on and on, and oh my gosh, it goes on and on. Wow, it's still going, and I'm still turning pages. What was the other one I did that was also almost equally as long? Okay, so I'm gonna pause there as far as reading this because it's already been almost 40 minutes. Wow, that went by so fast for me. So I'm going to do a little. We will finish Motherhood, and just keep, giving extra evidence as to the power of the Great Mother and motherhood and who we are and the truth about who we are. Okay, so a little bit about we're actually kind of stepping out of the North American gods and goddesses as far as my research and how I've been doing it. And then we're going to be moving into the South American gods and goddesses in the way that I've been, or Zemis, deities, spirits, primordial beings, primordial elementals, okay? So in my last video where I talked about Atabe, I also ended up speaking about the other deities related to her that are mentioned in this group, which is Yukachu and Guabanesex and Jurakan, which is the name that became Hurricane, and then Guabanesex and Yukachu were Yukachu was supposed to represent the masculine spirit of fertility in their mythology according to this, and Atabe would have been the counterpart, although in the story that I shared with you, Atabe created herself and then created the children. So I feel like, especially after what I just read, there always has to be a male involved now. Like in all of these different myths, I feel like they've changed a little bit. I don't know. So, because would she need a consort if she was capable of creating herself? Anyhow, so then there are other deities without a lot of information. And I'm focusing on female deities. So then it goes into so beyond that, there is Koyabe, and these are predominantly male deities, okay, or male Zemis. And so what I've learned about almost all of the North American tribes that we spoke about, or clans and peoples, is that they have a diverse spirituality. It incorporates always elements, weather, earth, critters, and then there are human aspects given or created. And then how each group precedes how they came to be on this planet is also through either the planet or earth or some great mother, great goddess, or great matrix maker. And then the stories change, okay? And then I was speaking about language, and I showed a little bit of that map that showed Powhatan, otherwise known as Virginia, and it looks bigger. And then I did some research, and I don't know if that was because apparently the Atlantic Ocean near Virginia used to be called the Virginian Sea. But also, if you look at that map, I don't know if it's just Virginia or if it's actually the whole kind of like bottom part of the Americas, like Florida included. So, still learning some things. Anyhow, the next two tribes on the list that I have here are the Tongva peoples, and they are indigenous people of California. Well, this is exciting. Have I done a little bit about this? I think this is where I learned how California used to be an island. Okay, so this group has a Uto-Aztecan language. Okay, so this is what I'll do. So I'll click on things, and I'm looking at this, and it's like the motherhood. There's a lot here. So, and this also links to Mexico, because this whole side of the country, I think all the way up to almost Canada, I think to where I'm at, maybe a little further into Oregon, what is now Oregon, was all Spanish, or was actually Mexico, literally Mexico, and then slowly wars and all that kind of thing. So this is where we'll be going next, the Tongva tribe, also known as so there's different groups. I feel like I did a little bit on this. I want to double check because I do think this is linked to, it says Los Angeles Basin. So maybe not San Diego. Because what I had done a video on were the San Diego people. So this is what I do. So I came here, I clicked on it on my phone. There's tons of information. So what I'll do is not on this right now, but I'll go through it, click on things, get more information, and bring you back more about the Tongva peoples and some history there. So also when I'm doing this, this is like recognized peoples of today. And the reason why I go back through these histories is because what I found, and I've shared with a lot of you, is it goes back, from what it sounds like, it goes back to the original peoples, the original stories, and what they look like, from the peoples of the Pacific Northwest down through the Californias over to the East Coast. There is a repeated description of very melanated people with curly, kinky, or coarse hair. And then we'll pull up pictures and they won't look like that. Or if they do, they've been paled, made to look lighter. And so I feel like there's a connection there and this is also a connection through the mothers. And so I want to talk a little side note. So again, do we see here that in all the cultures that went back to the mothers? So as far as racism and then different tones, skin tones, is there, I can see it, and I also got the remembrance, but who the original parents would be then? Who the original parents of everyone, what they would look like? The original mothers, what they would look like? They would be dark melanated mothers. So both the male and the pale are the children of the great melanated mother. Okay? Because it's pale. They're pale. Even on a very, very melanated person, their palm will be very light. And then could get lighter and lighter depending on how they decided to show up in this vibration. And so there's this connection, right? So you remove the mothers so that no one remembers who they are, and then you divide by tone, skin tone, because an albino brown person with all the features and the hair, where do they fit in this? When it comes to all this, pale people have no souls, which, I don't believe, or that the dark melanated mother is everything. I mean, she is the creator of all the things, including the albinized version of herself. Because you see what I'm saying? Mother didn't do that. Mother wasn't like, oh, you don't belong here because you don't look like everyone else. That is how powerful Mother is. This is how creative she is. This is how unique her intelligence is to create herself in a way that can survive and present in all these different ways. It's just, I'm trying to kind of give background or an idea of how this can how we might be able to actually shift it, and actually the truth of it, because no one got here without a melanated primordial mother. Okay, now we're going to talk about snakes and snake here real quick, because it is the year of the snake. Happy moon birthday. They say Chinese New Year. Also, it's another revelation for the moon. Okay, and I think it's the beginning of another 18.6 year cycle that the moon does. So this year is the year of the snake. So I want to talk about some things. I've mentioned it before, and we see a lot of reference to the great mothers and the ancient priestesses and oracles when it comes to snakes. So again, the rising of the great mother, the year of 9, and then also in our Gregorian calendar, which, okay. So we have this representation of the great mother as a snake. And then we're going to talk about snakes in general in nature, because like spiders, snakes have a really bad reputation. And it's making me mad, because I feel like we're smarter than this. When we look at nature and we really watch, has anyone actually watched a snake, including a rattlesnake or any kind of snake that is considered poisonous or deadly? Have you actually observed them? And those who have observed them will tell you, snakes don't like they don't hide out in somebody's yard waiting to bite a human. Oftentimes, snakes are just looking for heat or food. Okay, that's it. That's it. They don't go around biting things. They don't, unlike a cat who will sit and watch something for a long time to attack it and be very quiet and stealthy. Snakes don't do that. They don't hunt. They're just kicking it. They're just going. They're just going about their way. And spiders, the same. Like, spiders build. Some spiders do attack things, but most of those are not here in the Americas, in the North Americas. Well, tarantulas kind of do that, but not with humans. Again, and tarantulas live in caves underground, and they're not like, spiders aren't out to bite humans, is my point. So, in this year, I feel like that's what's going to happen also, is there's going to be a recognition of the truth about animals and the way that we humanize, we give human aspects to animals that they don't have. Like a snake in the grass. Some people are like, oh, that's a real snake in the grass. What? You mean there's something in the grass that you're afraid of that you shouldn't be afraid of? Is that kind of like the gaslight behind that? You know what I mean? And so they talk about not all snakes. Well, I don't want to say that. So shedding skin or regeneration. So this is what we know about the snake, is it grows, and some snakes, when they grow, will shed their old skin so that they can fit into their new growth. That will be something we'll see this year. And then I talked about before the mother wound and how this year is going to be about I said the Americas, but I feel like it might be beyond the Americas as well, where what is going to happen is the mother wound is literally going to show up. If it's because of what I've just read, because of the connection to our mothers and because of this kind of forgotten history and truth, so much trauma has happened, and then how we've responded to it, especially in a patriarchal world, and recognizing that is going to subtly start shifting. So people who still had trouble with, say, unhealthy relationships or boundaries are really seeing either where to set those boundaries or how not having them has affected them. And then the urgency to shift it is kind of sped up. So like the last few years, the urgency has kind of been building momentum. But now, and it's not like outside pressure, it's literally like each individual person alignment with the way things are going, pushing that healing to happen. Okay. Now, before we go, I also wanted to share that we are extremely creative beings, and I'm going to share some of the things I've created recently. I didn't plan this, but these ended up kind of matching each other. So here's some earrings I made recently. Make sure I present them well. And a finger wand. So if you've been following me for a while, I used to make these quite often and sell them on Etsy, but I don't do Etsy anymore, but I do still sell them. So if you're interested, anyway, this is got a little Reiki curl, and you can put it on different fingers, but this one has agate, fancy crystal, and then the little tiny blue beads are aquamarine. Okay. And then these earrings. This is serpentine, dyed serpentine on the top. And serpentine is one of my favorite stones for so many reasons. It's supposed to be one of the oldest stones of the planet. Like, it's one of the foundations of the planet, from what I've learned. I don't know if that's true completely, but anyways. And then it has carnelian, then a fancy beads, and then some fancy beads, or check beads. All check beads because they kind of have like a luminous. And then, well, you always see my ring, but also the scarf I made. The scarf I made. Also for sale, if you would like to buy it. So the scarf is $60. The wand is $20. And same with the earrings. And that includes shipping. Okay. That includes shipping with the earrings, $25 for the wand with shipping. Okay. Side note, how creative we are, great mothers, especially in the making clothes, making things, being creative. That's part of who we are. And that's part of how the world worked really well, is we each had certain skills. Like, one certain skill, we could make things, we could mold things, we could, we do that in today's world, but it's a little like rubber band, so to speak. And so, if you find the time, awesome. And if not, that's okay too, because you're always creating. Each time that a great mother or woman wakes up and puts her foot on the ground, or even just wakes up out of sleep, she is contributing to the world in a major way. Okay, so a little music, or a little sound, little singing bowls before we go. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening.